I'm Keenan and I play Bill Trotter DWYER. I mean, like, you know, I'm a surfer. I have surfed since I was 13, and my dad, you know, you see pictures of my dad, he looks like these guys, you know, that was him in the 70s. He looked kind of like Snapper in certain moments, for better or for worse. But I guess there was that side to it, you know, I felt like I knew the world, and I also felt like the characters were true to the world that I knew. I saw aspects of the characters in people that I knew in real life, and I think that's half the battle in bringing something like this to life and doing it justice. But then on top of that, you know, the drama for me was great, and it wasn't just about the surfing, you know, it was actually about the drama between these characters and the kind of power dynamics between these two friends. I thought the story like trod the line really well of being authentic to the time, but bringing in great stories that you hadn't have heard of at that time, you know. So it was a really good balance. And then also Taylor Steele being on board, and, you know, someone like Mick, like just certain people who, to me, it was going to make the story true to surfing, which was, you know, very important for me. Yeah, I knew about Quicksilver. I knew about mainly, I guess, Quicksilver and Rip Curl starting down in Torquay, and then you know, I've spent a lot of time down there. I have friends down there who work for Rip Curl and Quicksilver now, and so we get down and surf, and it's still such a strong surfing community. Like, kind of is almost a different breed of Aussie down there, to me anyway. Like, and the history runs really deep for surfing down there. So I knew about that. I didn't know, and I knew that Quicksilver had gone to the States, and kind of the guys had sort of swindled them a bit. But yeah, I thought like what this did is, I learned a lot reading the scripts of, I know it's a fictionalized take, but it was also, you know, a lot of it's taken from the real stuff and the real relationships. But I knew the basics of the stories. Didn't know as much about Billabong, but, you know, I grew up wearing all those clothes as well, and I still have Quicksilver shorts and Billabong jackets, and yeah, the history, you know, it's kind of, it's like a proud Australian story that we haven't really told. The fact that Quicksilver and Billabong and Rip Curl all started here. Yeah, it's amazing. Look, Barons it's set in a 70s world, you know, in a really exciting time, kind of like late 60s, 70s, where I guess like it was the sort of start of the sort of anti-establishment youth culture and movement. And it follows this group of friends in this small surfing town in Australia who pretty much start making their own surf products when no one else is really doing it. And suddenly they start making money doing it. And it brings into question all their kind of ideology of, you know, keeping things salty and these hippie roots they have. Suddenly they're getting paid a lot of money to commercialize the thing that they love the most and is their life and their world and shouldn't be commercialized to them. And you have some characters like mine who think that's a good thing. Not entirely, but certain aspects of it. And then you have characters who completely disagree. And you have this whole group of friends who are kind of split by this big movement. And it takes you on this massive journey, you know, and you get to know all these characters in this town. And they're a really great bunch of colourful characters. But by the end, they're kind of left really far from where they started. And a lot of things have changed within them and about their lives, some for the better and some for the worse. Yeah. So yeah, when we find Trotter at the start, he is, well, he's still fresh to the town. He's been there for 3 years, but he's not one of the he hasn't got the sort of stamp of authenticity of the other locals. He's moved there from the city, and he's working for Snapper. He feels somewhat on the outside. He's in with the guys, and he's got good at surfing quite quickly, but he doesn't really feel like he has that thing, you know, where you've been surfing all your life. And he wants nothing more than to be a surfer. He wants nothing more to be accepted and have that kind of stamp and be the guy who is salty, whatever we want to say, you know. And so he's, you know, he's looking for something. He's always looking for something. And he believes he's found it with surfing. And when he first moved to the town, he met the love of his life, Tracy, and she kind of brought him into this community and really helped him be accepted. And that love is so strong to him. So we find him, and he's getting married, he's starting a board short company. There's all these big things happening for him, and he is probably the happiest he's ever been. And, you know, he just gets carried away. This is what Trotter tends to do all the time, but he gets carried away with all this excitement and all this ambition, and he gets blinded to the mistakes he's making and the damage he's doing inadvertently to the relationships and people around him. So when we meet him, he's kind of naive. He's kind of naive to what's about to happen to himself and to the town. He is kind of driven by that at the start, by this idea that, you know, he can break out from like the expectations of the people around him. And then once he gets there, I think he kind of changes, and I think his ethics sort of change, you know. He becomes less about the money and more about the soul and what this life has actually, he takes stock and goes, this life has given me everything. And surfing it's a bigger thing than a product. And he really starts to look at the friends around him and the relationships and what it means. And in a way, it's kind of like a soulful awakening that he has for Trotter, you know, as much as he can have one. So it does change, and he's in a very different place at the end than he is at the start of the story. The sort of bigger themes of loss of paradise and, you know, overarching these beautiful, joyous themes have been what really grounds the story in consequences and actions having consequences. And sometimes we make decisions out of pure excitement and ecstatic decisions, but you are blinded by what could happen down the line through you doing that. And I think that's the, you know, the kind of overarching themes of like corruption by power. I like the moments where it makes those moments of friendship and love, and it makes you feel the loss of when they you know, seem to disappear. So I think it's a really solid mix of all these different themes, yeah. Yeah, the true love story of the of the show. They're in love. Trotter and Snapper are in love. When we first meet them, they are buddied up. They really get each other. They get each other, you know. They make each other laugh. They love each other. They have a lot of good times. I think there is a bit of a reverence from Trot to Snap. You know, he sees Snap as this guy. He's the sort of, you know, OG surf dog, and so Trotter's like looks up to him, but Trotter's ambition is the one thing that Snapper doesn't like, and he wants to kind of snuff it out. And Trotter just goes, well, that's not good enough. And, you know, Snapper's in with the dirty. He's, you know, taking the drugs from Bali to fund his business. So that's the one thing about Trotter that, you know, it's another driving force of his is he wants to do things right. You know, he wants to make things, do it clean and make it work above board. And Snapper's the opposite, and that's kind of where they part ways. And so it's a complex relationship, because then they link up a few times. They kind of like are bouncing off each other, fighting, coming back, like two good lovers, you know. And at the end, I think they're closer than further apart. But it's one of the funnest relationships to play. I've had so much fun playing that relationship, and a lot of laughs, a lot of fights, but a lot of love. Yeah, Ben is like, he's a live wire. He's funny because he's just, you know, we did some prep work. We all got together and did like, we'd read through scenes. I know Ben doesn't really like to read through scenes too much before you shoot. And I have a foot in both camps. Sometimes I do, and if not, I love getting in there and just seeing what happens. But he is such a reactive actor. Like, he is so spontaneous, and he also has a really good access to like the darkness in himself. So he's like, and he's hilarious. Like, he's on set, you hear him from a mile up. You hear him 20 minutes before he's arrived. Like, he's just so loud. And so he comes in, but then he has great moments of real kind of like solid, like tenderness, you know? And yeah, so it's exactly what you could want in really a partner to play off. And, you know, these two characters, it is such a volatile relationship that needs to swing wildly from friendship to kind of sometimes complete aggression. And I've been really glad to get to do it with Ben, because every time he brings it, you know, it's great. So he's a joy to work with, for sure. The other love story. This is the real love story. You know, Trot and Trace, they are, you know, they are completely in love. Like, I don't think Trot has ever met anyone who's loved him like Tracy. And it is a beautiful relationship. When we first meet them, they are head over heels for each other, and they live in a caravan. You know, they have essentially nothing, but each other is enough for them, and they make each other laugh, and they make do with what they have. And it's a beautiful relationship. You know, Tracy's incredibly creative, and Trotter, and she also, you know, while Trotter has the sort of wild dreams and, you know, sees the light and is blinded by it, Tracy is kind of like, she sees it, but she's like, well, this is how you get there. And she really helps him in that, and is great for him in that way. But then Trotter, essentially, you know, he can't help but destroy this. Well, he can, but he believes he can't. You know, he destroys the relationship, and he does it because of that complete wanting more, always wanting more. And I just don't think he knows what to do with that love. You know, she gives him all this love, and he kind of squanders it. You know, and then. So the relationship turns to a point where Tracy goes, I've given you everything and there's nothing left. And it's when it really hits Trotter that, you know, that was the one person who gave him everything and continued to, you know, even when he was flying off on his trips or, you know, leaving her at home to go surfing, she was always there for him. And once she goes, it's, you really don't know what you got till it's gone. And he's just left with no foundation. But it forces him to do some thinking on who he is and what he's really about. And so that's the real, you know, it's a relationship of joy and then tragedy. She is just, you know, so solid on screen. Like, as that character, she is exactly what Tracy needs. It's this strength, but she's incredibly creative, and she uses music too. Like, the choices of music she had for the character were just, it brings you into the world and the world she's created for Tracy in a really beautiful way. And she's so soulful, and yeah, it was magic, you know. Meeting her, I immediately knew. I was like, I see the qualities in you that I see in Tracy. And you know, you don't always get that when you're playing a partner, and yeah, it was really great. And she is a powerhouse, and she's going to go really far, I reckon, for sure. Not that I'm the consensus on anything like that, but for what it's worth. For me, it's his flaws, you know. He's kind of like, he is this guy who, on the outside, he just seems like a happy-go-lucky, ambitious guy, but he's really bullheaded in his ways, and to his detriment in a lot of ways, you know. He, once he makes a decision, he sticks by it, and he you know, makes these business decisions, and he kind of like, you know, just goes, he goes after what he wants, and sometimes it's like fingers get cut on the way. You know, he kind of like wipes out relationships doing it. But he is like, that's his sort of fatal flaw, is the fact that he is so blinded by what is in front of him that he kind of doesn't really take stock of those until it's too late. I've been surfing since I was 13, so it's probably the longest stint of research I've ever done for any job. And the funnest. But I went back and, like, for me it was like looking at a lot of, I think we all watched Sea of Darkness one by one as a great reference point. You know, lots of films I went back to. I watched lots of Taylor's early films, and then you know, Riding Giants. I went back and read like Barbarian Days, Salts and Suits, you know, these sort of books that just tell you about these guys, and these films where you get to see the world and the excitement and the kind of like love that people had, you know, in this, because surfers were on the out, you know, they were on the outer, they were like chastised by society, and so they really stuck together in their really strong groups, and it's the beauty of it, you know. Surfers always had each other, and still do, you know. Wherever you go as a surfer, you've got a community everywhere. So yeah, I think it's like, it's a world I really know quite deeply and love, and a lot of these films and references I went back and rewatched. But I've grown up watching these films, and, you know, I was like in my dad's shed when he was shaping boards when I was a kid, and like, you read Snapper's shaping shed, and I'm like, well, I've been there. You know, I've been in Reggie's shed. It's my dad's shed. So I was really lucky in that way to have been inducted since I was young in the surfing world. But then going back and reminding myself, and kind of like, you know, books like Barbarian Days, they're surfing stories, but written for people who don't surf. And once again, it's kind of like there were certain things about surfing I took for granted, and, you know, even, yeah, and reminding myself of what it's like, and to be a surfer, and what it's like to someone who's not a surfer, you know, which is what Trotter originally is, you know, he's not a surfer. And so yeah, it was kind of like trying to look from that lens, from the outside looking in. But yeah, you know, all that stuff is just, it's not really a chore. It's just like fun. Taylor Steele shooting the surf footage for this show is, you know he's getting it right. And that is such a big thing. You know, there's so many surfing shows made that almost get it right, or kind of like get some bits right, but then, you know, you see a double for a kid and it's like a full-grown man, 6 foot tall, and something like that, you know. So that was a big thing, and it's something that I think he's really nailed, is getting the surfing right, getting the surfers to look like they're from the 70s, which they've done an amazing job, you know. Someone like that rallies like the best pro surfers from around Australia, and we've got them. And I watched the surfing footage on this and I can't believe it. It's like I'm watching a great surf film, you know. I'm really, really happy watching it. And now, yeah, and so I get to surf in the show, and that is just like, you know, when I'm on the beach shooting surfing, it's like, I can't believe I'm getting paid. That's my job, you know. And it's just, they're the days that I'm just like, you can't wipe the stupid smile off my face. I'm so happy. And so, yeah, we're really lucky, you know, to be bringing the surf world authentically from this time to life. And I think audiences will love it, but I also think surfers will see it and see that and really be brought into the world, which to me is so important as a surfer, you know. It's why I signed on to this job, because I felt like that would be authentically brought to the screen, and I think it has. So it's a really great thing, yeah. I mean, If it wasn't an ABC show, you say. Look, the 70s is, you know, it's a fascinating time. It was like, you know, such a great, amazing moment in history for, I guess, music, for people expanding their minds, you know, not necessarily with drugs, but, you know, sure, there was a lot of that involved. I mean, it was an exciting time, and a time where I think people started to really move into like embracing connection with other people. And, you know, you've got the Vietnam War, you've got so much contentious kind of bigger, you know, political moments happening in the background. And what it did is really made people band together. And that's why it's always going to be a fantastic era to explore, and a fascinating era. And there's no shortage of, I guess, like mulch to dig into there, you know, if you want to make something great. They are, you know, amazing. They've dug up all these outfits from the 60s or 70s, and then for what they needed doubles for, they've gone and made their own costumes, and it's beautiful. The palettes they've used, the different colours for each character. You see it on screen, and every character has their own tone and their own, you know, life in their costume. And it says so much about them as a character, which is the job of costume, but they've really nailed it, you know. They've really done a good job. And you look, I'm never opposed to putting on a pair of flares, and there's been a few. I've always enjoyed the music from the 70s. I listened to a lot of the Kinks on this. And Lou Reed, a bit of always the Beatles, and then I know Benny was playing a lot of the Doors, and that was his kind of Snap, you know, for Snap. I know Jill also found some amazing music. She goes deep on YouTube and finds bands you've never heard of, and our wedding song that she chose was phenomenal, and I'd never heard it before, and I don't think anyone has. But yeah, she did some real digging too. So we've had music playing the entire time. It's been great. Well, the vest. I learnt that I'm going to wear a vest at my wedding. No, I look, I've done some 70s things. I've worn some, you know, pretty great 70s outfits. But I don't know. I mean, for trot, the big one is the tuck. It's the tuck. You know, I'm not a big tucker. Trotter tucks everything, and he's tucked some things that I didn't know you would tuck. You know, he tucks in his sweaters, he tucks it all. So that's a big thing for Trot. That's his city tuck. You know, he's just a little bit, and it's, you know, it's a pretty 70s thing, but you know, he when it comes down to the way he dresses, he cares. He wants to be presentable, and he likes a good tuck. Tuck it all in, you know? Why not? Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to lump them all into one because they're all so great. They, I mean, Sean started off, you know, he was our kind of standover director for the first 3 eps, and I'd never worked with him before, but he's just the loveliest man under the sun. And he's great, you know, like he's not a surfer, but he understands the kind of like bringing the world to life is so much about spontaneity and freedom and shooting things, you know. He was shooting on the fly, you know, and a lot of handheld stuff. And even in the audition room, I did a lot of reading for a lot of characters as Trotter, and that's where I first met Sean, and he was there with his handheld camera doing the shots he was going to do for the scenes. And you know, it was just a great insight into how he was going to shoot it, and he'd get in close with the camera handheld. And to me, that was so exciting because it was so important to bring that element of the world, the kind of spontaneous side to the world, to life. And you know, he has a really good sense for the time and for the attitude, and yeah, it was just a joy. And then working with Fadia's far more structured, and she has like such a beautiful eye, you know, like she composes things. I'm excited to see what it looks like through her lens, because like things are less wild, but they are beautifully composed, you know, and her shots and her ideas are like, they're just masterful, you know, they're beautiful, and it's a really nice touch what she's brought to those episodes, I feel, and I think the two will work in a really beautiful way for those different episodes and what they represent. So now we're back onto Sean for the end to bring it out, and then Taylor, well, you know Taylor, he's great. You know, he's the most chill director under the sun. He's under the sun, but he is the most chilled guy ever. I mean, he pretty much is just like get up at first light, get the most beautiful light, and shoot all these great moments. You know, we've shot some really, really great stuff, just improvised stuff on the beach, the surfing stuff we got, and then once the sun gets too bright, he's just like, we'll hold off till it gets a bit more beautiful, and then he waits till it gets better, and then we shoot again, and it's like some of the funnest days. And you know, he has a really good sense for story and the time, you know, and obviously for surfing. Yeah, he's been a surfer all his life, and so you know, it's such a great mix to bring the story to life, and I think it's worked really well, definitely. Barons is a fun, wild, anarchic ride, full of ambition, love, friendship, and most importantly, surfing. And I hope everyone comes along for the ride with us. Yeah. We hope the surfing transports them back and feels like you're in the 70s, you know. And surprising them about the show, well, there's so many twists and turns. It's like, there's things that have surprised me about the show, so I hope they're surprised. I think it's like these relationships that they will learn to love, and then which ones last and which ones get torn apart will be a big surprise. And, you know, we just hope that they love all these characters and come along for the ride. I don't know what he's going to do with his facial. He might have to do something with his facial hair and mix it up. You know, he's moving up in the world now. But I think he'll thrive. I think he's going to expand out somewhere new.
Are you excited?
Maybe Europe.
Are you excited to see him go into the 80s?
I am. I think the 80s is great for surfing. I love the fluoro trend. No, the boards get shorter. We'll be surfing. We'll have leggies.
Yeah.
Won't that be great? Not having to run in for our boards anymore when we lose them. Yeah, I'm ready to get into the 80s. Come on.